Welcome to the Real News Network, coming to you from Washington, D.C. Now joined by Reverend Jesse Jackson, who does not need an introduction, so I'm not going to do one because we have very little time with him, and I'm not going to waste it on introducing someone who doesn't need it. Thank you very much, sir.
So good to see you.
So I know we have very little time, so I'm going to ask you just one question. You campaigned vigorously for then candidate Obama. You have been always associated with a very progressive agenda. How do you rate how he's doing, and to what extent is the progressive wing of the party having a voice in this administration?
Well, he's setting a new mood, a new attitude, new expectations for the country. There's always a tension between the politics of re-election and the politics of conscience. And therefore, progressives cannot just vote and go home. They must vote and remain active. Dr. King supported Kennedy over Nixon, but still had the march on Washington for the public accommodation bill. He supported Johnson over Goldwater. We still had the march on Selma for the right to vote. And so the great critical issues of conscience must keep pressure even on a friendly administration. So there are those who would say on student loans, let's have a better lender. We say students should get the same interest rate that banks. Banks are getting 0% interest loans. The federal government is borrowing money at less than 1% and charging students 7%. So why should the federal government make money off of student loans? So demanding that students have the same rate as banks and the federal government gets, that's a progressive demand. The stimulus is a good thing, but to get it from down to the bottom is another thing, and get it bottom up. If students get a 0% interest rate, that's bottom up stimulus. If it goes to Citigroup or AIG, it's top down stimulus. Right now we have the anxiety over General Motors being bankrupted. They benefit from bankrupt because that allows them to dismiss their obligations and then get infused in $50 billion. We say student loans are non-dischargeable. So you can't bankrupt your of a student loan, for example.
And are you being heard?
Of course we're being hurt, and therefore we've got to keep the pressure on. I think it's good to have an ally to communicate with and have an adversary in the White House or in the Congress, as the case may be. But we want, while we're stimulating on the one hand, we're also hemorrhaging on the other hand.
Because we're at a time where there's a lot of money being put into stimulus, but when you look at what's happening in Detroit in the auto industry, thousands of people are going to lose their jobs.
The stimulus is coming top down and not bottom up, fundamentally, and that's why we have to keep, how can I put it this way? You know, the stimulus is coming, $13 trillion. Still losing 600,000 jobs a month. We're still losing 2.2 million homes to foreclosure and $90 billion in student loan debt a year. So we must fight to get the stimulus connected to those who have the greatest need for reinvestment and for reindustrialization.
So, but you're asking an upside down turn on what the current plan is. There's not really a progressive voice in the Obama finance team.
Well, and that's why we must provide that voice. It may be inside the team or it may be in the streets.
So how do you build that movement in the streets? Like, what is,
well, those who voted last fall must not act this summer and this fall and demand that there be a reinvestment in America plan that evens the playing field. Demand reindustrialization. Don't tell me banks are too big to fail. Maybe we need smaller banks that are reconstruction banks, are targeted toward real need and not just putting more new wine in old wineskins, for example. So progressives should feel good about the election last fall, but now to make it happen, we must continue acting and raising the right questions of conscience.
The building of that kind of movement to be able to be a counterweight or a real influence, for example, on healthcare. You have Senator Baucus saying more or less trying to negotiate a deal with private healthcare companies in order to create a public plan they're happy with.
One of the big issues in the automotive crisis that we're losing $1,500 per car on health insurance costs. So we're having the Rainbow Push Convention, June 27th to July 1st in Chicago. I'm mobilizing all progressives to meet me in Chicago as we organize our fight for a comprehensive health care plan, a moratorium on these home foreclosures, and stimulate bottom up, not just top down. Reinvest in America and even the playing field. We can compete on an even playing field. We cannot compete. Like, the car deal has been more about workers taking cuts and retirees taking cuts. We've not discussed trade policy. Unfair exploitative trade policy is driving, and the price of gas. The price of gas and unfair trade policies are driving the agenda. We must fight those forces.
Well, I know you have to go, so we're going to meet you in Chicago, and we are going to see to what extent the people on the streets follow you. Please join us on the Real News Network and join us again with Jesse Jackson when we meet up in Chicago.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.